Hey, what's up guys? It's your boy Severe Erectile Dysfunction back with another Elden Ring challenge video. It's been a minute since my last video because unfortunately I got sick with the big C and it was not chlamydia this time, so I was feeling pretty terrible all week. I am still working on the No Grace Site run, but as you can imagine that takes absolutely forever because every time I die I have to run all the way back to the boss from the very beginning of the game, so that's going to take another week or so to get out, so I wanted to do something else in the meantime since it's already been a while since my last video. Also, we hit 100k subscribers last week, so like, holy shit, I am very, very grateful, and I'll probably have a sappy thank you at the end of this video, but I don't want to put it in the intro because I already have a couple other things to get through, and I don't want it to be like 5 minutes long. I do want to do a little giveaway to say thank you to you guys, nothing too crazy, just want to give away like a $100 gift card to your gaming platform of choice, whether it's Steam, PSN, or Xbox, or whatever. Hell, it could be Target for all I care. All you have to do is be subscribed, obviously, and leave a like on this video, even though I have absolutely no way of verifying if you did that or not. But most importantly of all is leave a comment on this video telling me your favorite boss in any FromSoft game, whether it's Elden Ring, Dark Souls, or whatever, and tell me why. Honestly, you don't even have to tell me your favorite boss or anything. You could just leave a comment saying guacamole ninja penis for all I care, but just make sure you leave a comment because I'm going to be using a random comment selector to pick a winner, so make sure you have your comment replies turned on so you know it if I reply to you. And one more thing. Before we get into today's video, I have a quick shout out to today's sponsor, Atlas VPN, who have a great deal going on right now where you can get 3 years for only $1.99 a month. Now, we all already know that VPNs give you privacy and protect your data, but personally, I've been using Atlas VPN to get onto private servers and to avoid matches full of bots, and Atlas handles this super well with extremely fast speeds. When I'm not gaming though, I still like to use Atlas to block malicious ads, trackers, and it'll even notify you when somebody's trying to steal your data. Also, when you're buying things online, you could even use Atlas VPN to save yourself some money by putting yourself in another country with better prices than your own. For example, you could use Atlas VPN to put yourself in another country to save yourself money on Spotify, Netflix, YouTube Premium, and more. With a low price of $1.99 a month, it's a really great value, especially since you can protect all of your devices with one single subscription. And if you happen to not be satisfied, you have a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there is no need to worry. So head down to the link in the description and try it out for yourself, and thanks once again to Atlas VPN for sponsoring this video. Alright, so last time I asked you guys to guess who this wonderful character was, and a ton of you did get it right. Obviously, it was Jules from Pulp Fiction, not too difficult, but a ton of you for some reason picked this Samuel Jackson guy, who I have no idea who that was, but you're wrong. Hey, Editor Ty here, and for legal reasons, that last part was a joke, because I know there's at least one person who took that serious and is writing a comment roasting me right now, so yeah, I was just kidding. And if you don't know the character I'm making this time, just log off, my dude, you're done. I don't think we can be friends, and honestly, I don't want to be friends with you. I started off the game with the Prophet class because he's the only one that starts with the Pyromancy incantation, so that would be pretty stupid of me not to. And I know Pyromancy technically isn't the class of spells in this game, like a lot of the other FromSoft games, but if it makes fire and it's an incantation, then just assume I'm allowed to use it. The only ones I'm excluding are the Frenzied Flame incantations because I've already done that, and also any Dragon Fire Breath attacks because I've already done that as well, so any other incantations that are fire-based is fair game. I did absolutely no preparation before the first boss fight. Since I already had a Pyromancy incantation, I did want to go to the round table so I could buy a fireball from that one dude, but Melatonin did not want to invite me to the cool kids table, so I just said fuck it and went in there with my very short range fire attack. It's not too terrible. Like I said, it has a really short range though, but the damage isn't too bad. Luckily, Godric has a good amount of openings, like when he jumps into the air and stabs the ground, he kind of just sits there and lets you get a bunch of hits on him, so I basically just ran around trying to bait him into doing that, or doing his attack where he has a very, very long windup where you can just dodge right through it and get a couple attacks in. Even though the range is super short, it actually comes out super fast, so whenever you have an opening, you can easily get a couple of attacks in before you have to roll away. The second phase also has a bunch of openings, but he also adds a couple, like the one with his big ol' hammer slam attack, but you could usually just easily roll right through it whenever he does it and get a couple hits on him. Hopefully when you do that, he'll just jump away after you hit him a couple times, but like 30% of the time, he'll just decide he does not like me burning his booty cheeks, and he'll start smacking me around a bit and almost kill me every single time because I have the reaction time of an alcoholic snail, but that is just a risk I am willing to take. Eventually though, you'll get his health very, very low, and then you'll realize you ran out of FP flasks and punch yourself right in the dick for being so stupid. But I went back with one more FP flask and one less HP flask, and I finished him off for real this time. And you're probably thinking, wow, that looked really easy. He did that in like 2 attempts.
No, nigga. No. No!
It actually took me a ton of tries to beat this fight like most fights, but I do need to give you guys the illusion that I'm a lot better at this game than I actually am. After that, I dump all my runes into leveling Faith, because if you're not talking Faith in this run, then I don't want to talk. Next, I headed on over to these mines to get a talisman that increases my incantation damage, and then I killed the Falling Star Beast boss, super easy, no cap, on God, for real for real. Sorry, that was for all the people that hate it when I use quote-unquote slang words. Guess I'm just too hella lit and youthful for you fogies. Am I right, fellow kids? For the next talisman, I went on over to the Bestial Sanctum and grabbed the Dragon Crest talisman for some more physical defense, at least for now, until the later game when I can get some more talismans that'll increase our fire damage instead. Then, like usual, I told this man he's a huge pussy for not wanting me to go through the main gate, and I expertly dodged the arrows to get through. Shit, I zigged when I should have zagged. I love this next fight because usually it's really easy for me because he's just really slow and has a lot of telegraphed moves and a lot of openings that I've probably killed him at least 10 or 12 times now, and plus he doesn't even know that I'm forklift certified, so that gives me another huge advantage. First phase is usually super easy because he just loves spamming his tornado attack, and if you stand close enough to him when he does it, he usually won't throw it at you, and you can kind of just slowly walk around him when he lands and just go ham on him. Even if he does decide to throw the tornadoes at you, as long as you dodge the second one, you can still get a couple hits and run away before he hits you. I also got the fireball before this fight, so having a range attack definitely helps, especially when he's flailing around all crazy, and you can just get some distance and chuck a fireball at his head. The only thing I don't like about the fireball is it takes a while to throw it. Even when you don't charge it at all, it still takes a hot minute to get off. See what I did there? A hot minute, because it's a fireball. It still is nice having two incantations that fulfill different roles because one is super fast and really close and one's far away but a lot slower. One of the only other attacks to worry about is his ground slam attack, and you could be a puss boy like me and run away a lot of the times, or you can be a Giga Chad pussy slayer and take the unnecessary risk of jumping over it a few times and getting a hit in just because you can. The second phase is even easier though, because at the very beginning you could just easily run up on him and after that, you just want to stay at a closest range and just wait for him to either do his tornado attack, which we all already know how to deal with that, or he starts swinging wildly, which we all also already know how to deal with that, or he's going to do one of his many flame attacks, which we basically deal with the same way no matter which one it is. All you got to do whenever you see him do a fire attack that isn't the tornado one is just run up on him. You can get in really close, you can get behind the flame attack, and then just get a bunch of attacks in until he's done, and then skedaddle on out of there. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I said, this fight is pretty easy, especially once you know how to deal with all of his attacks. I did run out of FP a couple times and shed a couple manly tears, but I did have to come back to this fight with 1 HP flask, but it didn't really matter because it was still pretty easy. GG, easy win. Alright, next up on the shit list is Red Wolf, and for some reason, I don't know why, I thought he would be like super resistant to fire. I don't know, maybe because he's red and his sword kind of looks like it's on fire or something, and my brain was just like, yeah, Fire Wolf, this is gonna suck, but no, he's just a regular wolf. As you can see though, it really wasn't working out too well because I'm pretty sure I was like level 20 when I did this, so I headed on over to the crystal tunnels to kill the crystal boss so I can get the bell bearing so I can buy some upgrade materials for my seal. Luckily you can eventually end up staggering this boss with enough fireballs to the face, and after that it's super easy just to switch to the catch flame and just stun lock him to death, so it's pretty easy after that. After that, I headed on over to Cleveland to grind these guys a bit because they're worth like 1k runes each, and you can easily stun lock them to death with the catch flame as well, so that was a pretty easy grind spot for a very early game. Next, I headed on over to the Limgrave Tower to activate my Great Rune, and then I upgraded my seal, and then we headed back to the Wolf. Now it is much easier to survive because I can take a few more hits and I'm doing a lot more damage. Like I said before, he really doesn't have that much health, so it doesn't take too long, and I mainly just waited for him to do his leaping attack where you can just easily strafe around him and get a handful of hits in whenever he lands. Also, I like to hit him whenever he does his double slash attack that leads into a jumping slam attack as well, because whenever you do that, as long as you can dodge the last attack at least and roll through it, you can get a couple hits before he starts to attack you again. I was still getting hit a lot by that last slam attack because I honestly suck ass at this game. The catch flame is great for this fight though because like I said before, it is super fast and you can get at least 3 or 4 of them off before you need to dodge his next attack. After I patched a hole in my wall, I came back, beat the piss out of him, and teabagged him for good measure. Wait, is this considered bestiality? Before the Mommy Renella fight, I got a talisman that increases my magic resistance because I'm a pussy and I need all the protection I can get. Also, since I got a new spell slot from the Red Wolf, I went ahead and grabbed this flame book that has a couple new Pyromancy incantations in it. One of them is just an upgraded version of the catch flame incantation I have. It's chargeable, but it's also a little bit slower even if you don't charge it. And the other one is like this flamethrower attack that comes out of your hand, which is probably useful in certain scenarios, but it's pretty ass against most of the bosses in this game. And one more thing, obviously we gotta get rid of these old rags for some new drip, but unfortunately the ones I want, you gotta kill all these fire monks, and they're very fire resistant, and obviously they're surrounded by other enemies, which makes it a lot harder to kill them. Literally took me over an hour to get the whole set, but who cares about wasted time when you look this goddamn fresh. First phase of the Renella fight, I used the quicker and cheaper catch flame incantation to save my FP for the next phase, and it comes out a lot faster, and it just makes sense because it really doesn't matter how much damage you do to the shielded enemies. I was able to get her health bar about halfway down the first time I dropped her, and then I was able to finish her off the second time I dropped her. The second phase though, eats ass. I mean, I wish I could eat Renella's ass. I mean, it sucks ass. I don't know what I mean. Although you can stun lock her sometimes by spamming the catch flame on her, she loves dashing backwards and constantly moving around, so you have to always chase her down a lot, so it's really not the most reliable strategy, but when it works, it works. Most of the fight I just spent chasing her down, trying to get a hit or two. I could use the fireball more often if I wanted to, but it's pretty slow, which leaves you open to take some damage from her spells, so I try not to use it very often. The second phase of the second phase is a goddamn nightmare. Dealing with her summons is not fun. For the wolves, I just like to run away and try to lead them away a little bit and then quickly run back and get a hit or two and roll away before they take a chunk out of my ass. The dragon is probably the easiest one to deal with, honestly. As long as she backs up behind the flames that he's shooting out, she's really passive when the dragon is out and usually lets me get a bunch of hits on her. When she summons the Bloodhound Knight though, it's just a whole lot of... I could try to kill him, but it's honestly just a waste of FP because literally she's just gonna resummon him in like 5 seconds after I beat him, so it's really not worth it. The same thing with the giant, although he is a lot easier to deal with because he's a lot slower, so I just try to lead him away a little bit and run back, try to get a hit or two before he smashes me. This fight honestly took forever. It took me about 15 minutes, and most of that time was just me running away from the Bloodhound Knight, so yeah, that was not fun. It also took me like a million tries to beat this fight, and I was so upset that I canceled my life-size Renella pillow with realistic feet, and honestly I didn't even feel bad about it. I also decided to get this new incantation from the Scarab, and it's basically just an upgraded version of the one I got earlier, and yeah, it still sucks, except now it just costs more FP. 0 out of 10 would probably be just more effective to slap him with my flaccid wiener. I will unlock more incantations later once I can get to the Mountain of the Giants, but we're basically stuck with what we have now. Now it's time for the Tree Sentinel boss, and the first thing I do is equip a talisman that increases my lightning damage resistance. At the very beginning of the fight, I always hit him with a couple charged O-Flame attacks because he always takes a while to actually start attacking you. After that, I switch to the Catch Flame because although it is weaker, it's a lot faster, and it actually gives me the perfect amount of time to get an attack off and then dodge his next incoming attack. It's basically just a lot of me running around, hitting him once, dodging, and then running away over and over and over until the second phase. The second phase though is honestly a lot of the same, except now I need to avoid a lot of his lightning attacks, which isn't all bad considering it adds a couple new openings for me as well. Like when he does his single lightning strike, if you can dodge right through it towards him, you could usually get in a hit or two and then roll away before you get hit yourself. Most of his other lightning attacks I can't do a goddamn thing about. Well, you probably can if you're more skilled than me, but I am just not that guy. It also takes a lot of FP to win this fight, so I really couldn't come in with many HP flasks, which is never fun. I'm also showing you a time I actually died because I had to fight him for so long with like a smidge of health left, but at the very end I choked and beefed it at the last moment, and it was not very cash money of me if I'm being honest. Next time I did come back and made him eat shit and die, so it's all good. I honestly really wanted a crown to wear because that's like the ultimate drip, but unfortunately there isn't any crowns in this game that don't have a bunch of stupid hair attached to it coming out of it, but they do have this headband thing, so that's close enough. I did have to kill this guy like a million times, but it was obviously worth it to look this good. Also, I went out and got the next smithing stone bell bearing and upgraded my seal some more. Now it's time for the old Piss Ghost McGee, and I swear they updated him to not do his stomp attack as much because before, like I've said, he's one of the easiest main bosses in the game because it's super easy just to roll behind him every time he does his stomp attack. But now he really doesn't seem to do it nearly as often, but it's still not too difficult. He still does it often enough, but it's just not nearly as often as he did before, but I was actually almost able to kill him without taking a single hit, but I did die like 10 times before this, but at the very end I did stun him, which I had no idea you could do. After I stunned him, he did decide to take a nice long knee for our first responders out there. Shout out Kobe Covington and my fellow UFC fans, but I did get slightly too greedy at the end because he hit me one time before I was able to finish him off, ruining my no-hit attempt at this boss, but it was still a pretty fun fight. After that, I went ahead and got the Godfrey Icon Talisman, which increases the damage of charged incantations. I did have to kill Godfrey again, but it was pretty easy because he didn't even have a second phase like a scrub, so it wasn't a problem. Also, I got the Scorpion Talisman, which increases fire damage, but also makes you take more damage yourself, but I am a risky boy and live for the thrill, so it's okay. The next boss was actually pretty tough. None of my incantations really did all that much damage, and I could have went out and upgraded my seal some more, but that is in fact for puss boys, so we stuck with what we had. In the first phase of the fight, I was actually able to use a mix of my fireball and the catch flame, which makes me feel like a true firebender, but whenever he does his attack where he stabs into the ground is definitely the best opportunity to get a bunch of hits in. Other than that, it was just a lot of me running around, chucking fireballs at him whenever I could, although there was a lot of times during this fight that he would just non-stop attack me and he would just keep stringing together combos endlessly and he would never give me a chance to do anything but run and dodge until he would decide to relax for like 2 seconds. In the second phase, the fireball is basically useless because his AI suddenly gains enough IQ points to understand Rick and Morty, and he just starts dodging 90% of my fireballs unless I catch him in the middle of one of his attacks. So since I really couldn't use my fireball, I have to dodge all of his attacks until he finally decides to do the ground stab attack again, because that is basically the only safe moment I have to attack in the second phase, making this one of the longest fights so far. Now that we have the mountaintop of the giants opened up, we have a few more options. The first thing we need to do is grab the giant seal, which boosts our giant flame incantations, and speaking of, we need to grab the giant flame book for a few new incantations. One of them is like a shotgun fireball, which isn't too useful against the bosses, but definitely is useful against crowds of enemies. And also we get this big ass fireball, which definitely is useful against the bosses, but it does cost 2 spell slots, but it is definitely worth it. After that, we did a little deforestation because fuck Mother Nature, shout out to global warming, because I needed this cracked tier that increases my fire damage even more. Now it's time to see if we can kill the fire giant using nothing but fire. As you can probably guess, this fight was extremely tough and took me a ton of attempts. Luckily, the fire giant is slow as hell, and I was able to get away with just using my slower O-Flame incantation, which does more damage on its own, and I can use the Godfrey Icon Talisman to make it even stronger. I'm saving my mixed flask for the second phase because hitting his weak spot in the second phase is way harder than the first phase. Speaking of his weak spot, for some reason hitting his weak spot in this first phase is a little tricky with the flame incantations because for some reason only like half the time I was hitting him in his ankle I would do extra damage, and the other half it was just like I was hitting any other spot. My only issue with the O-Flame incantation is I like to charge it up all the way obviously to do as much damage as possible, but he likes to move his ankle a lot before it's fully charged, just making me straight up whiff it, and that never feels good. After many attempts though, I did make it to the second phase, and like I said, it is much harder to hit his weak spot in the second phase, so at the very beginning is your best chance to get a bunch of hits on his wrist. And if you get lucky enough like I did, you'll actually do enough damage to his wrist to make him fall over and expose another weak spot, being his weird eyeball chest thing, and this is your chance to go absolutely crazy. Do as much damage as absolutely possible to his eyeball, because after this, it's just a crapshoot. I do my best to try to hit his weak spot on his wrist, but it is extremely dangerous, and I have like almost no HP flask, so it's really hard to risk doing that because this is like my 40th attempt doing this fight. So because of that, I mostly just stick to his legs and admire those thick calves because he clearly has never skipped leg day in his life, but the damage back here is absolutely awful. I had no idea if I would have enough FP to even finish him off if I stuck to his leg, so I did have to go for his wrist a couple times, but I was pretty scared because I really did not want to risk it for the biscuit and do this fight over and over again. Eventually though, by the grace of Guy Fieri, despite almost jumping to my death at the end, we did defeat the fire giant, only using fire somehow. After that, we immediately get yet another boss fight that's extremely resistant to fire. Yippee! Despite me giving the Foreskin Bros my best scary face, they still fuck me up pretty bad a lot of the times. For this boss, I mainly just stuck to the big old fireball attack I had, and they love to use their fireball, so it was just a big old fireball offer a lot of the time. I tried to just stick to the big one because he has absolutely no situational awareness, and he really just does not try to dodge my fireballs, like, ever, unlike the skinny one who dodges them like 90% of the time. I really had to use the pillars to my advantage during this fight in case they threw a fireball at me while I was charging mine up, and that did work out pretty well for the most part, except I still would take a hit every once in a while, but it was actually okay for once because I was actually able to come in with more than like 1 HP flask this time. I also like to focus on the big one because whenever you get him into the second phase, he does his roly-poly attack, and it's really easy just to get him stuck on the pillar and just start blasting him with fireballs while he's stuck. I actually did accidentally hit the skinny one enough times to get him into his second phase, but surprisingly he really wasn't too much trouble to deal with, and I also got really close to dying at the end, but like I said before, I am forklift certified, and thanks to that knowledge, I was able to hit them both at the same time at the end and finish them off pretty quick. And after beating them, we get rewarded with the last smithing stone ball bearing that we need, and I upgrade my seal a few more times. And surprising absolutely everyone, this next boss fight was actually weak to fire for the first time, at least in the first phase. The first phase is easy peasy lemon squeezy because I have a ranged attack, and if you have a ranged attack during this fight, it should be no problem. All you really have to do is keep your distance, wait for him to do an attack, and then answer that attack with a fireball, rinse and repeat that, and you should be able to get through it most of the time without taking any damage. The second phase though really gets my knickers in a twist, and I would probably pay at least 9 Chuck E. Cheese tokens to never have to do this fight again. It's pretty annoying because he's one of those bosses that can dodge my fireballs like at least 50% of the time, and please ignore this trash ass disgraceful gameplay because I did not expect to win this time because I was getting destroyed, but somehow I pulled it off. Since he likes to dodge my fireballs a lot of the time, I tried to use one of my new incantations that summons fire from the ground and just have him walk into it, which does work some of the time, but it's really hard to time it so you don't actually take a hit and damage him at the same time. I was able to hit him with fireballs if I waited for him to do a combo, like when he jumps in the air and does his 3-slash attack, or when he does his ground stab thing and he does his super mega anime nothing personal kid slash attack in the air. Luckily, he has very little health in this phase, so even though I was getting absolutely destroyed, it still didn't take too many hits to land to actually finish him off. And now it's time for the menace himself, the destroyer of worlds, the pussy-slaying god himself, motherfucking Gideon. Yeah, I can basically just use my catch flame to stun lock him for most of the fight, and it was pretty funny actually. Sorry, Gideon. I also decided to go fight Radon at this point, and yeah, I was pretty over leveled at this point, so all I really had to do was hop on my horse, go wham bam thank you ma'am, and it was over pretty quick. The next 2 shard bearers, as you could probably guess, were a goddamn nightmare. One of them literally lives in a lake of lava, and they are both extremely resistant to fire. Let's start with the Lord of Blood first. This fight sucked pretty bad. I had to use the fireball like the entire time because using anything else was a lot more dangerous than that, and the damage is a lot higher than anything else thanks to the Godfrey icon talisman I have. I just had to get really good at dodging this fight because like most fights in this run, I didn't really have any HP flasks to spare. I would mainly just try to get a bunch of distance from him, but not too much because the range on the fireball isn't as great as you would think it is, but it's like just enough to get through this fight. So I would basically just get some distance, throw a fireball, and then just pray he wouldn't attack me as I was trying to scooch around him to get back to the other side of the arena. And yeah, that was definitely the hardest part of the fight, just having to get around him and dodging his giant spear thing while he's throwing fire at me all the time. And the second phase is way harder. He gets way more aggressive, adds a ton of moves, but the way we fight him is basically the same. Just get distance from him, throw a fireball, and hope he doesn't hit you while you try to run around him. I'm basically shitting my pants this entire fight because he is constantly trying to dive bomb you, and that is not the easiest thing to dodge, but it is definitely doable. There's really not too much to say about this fight. I basically just spent 90% of it running around, just waiting for a slight opening that I could throw a fireball at him, and I basically could only attack him like once every 2 minutes, which I am exaggerating, but barely. The absolute worst part of this fight was the first time I got him almost down to death, and I had to use one of my Starlight Shards, hoping it would give me enough FP to finish him off, but no, it didn't. I just wasted my Starlight Shard, and I still didn't kill him. Sad days, boys, sad days. So we did it all again, messed him up, and then moved on to the Snake Boy. I had a very strong feeling this fight was not going to be doable because I'm pretty sure he has more total health than any other boss in the game and he's fire resistant, so don't tell the government, but I used my hacker boy skills to make myself invincible just to see if it was possible. And no, it's not. It took me about 10 FP flasks just to get past the first phase, and that was with no misses and me hitting his weak spot more than half the time. And in his second phase, he has even more health than the first phase, so there is just no way this is doable. Womp womp, I'm a failure and a stupid bitch. I'm gonna go skinny dip in some acid. Now it's time for Mr. Buff Daddy Lou, who was actually a lot easier than I expected. I didn't realize how passive he could be at times, and I expected him just to rush up on me and punch me in the forehead every time I tried to charge an attack, but no, he was pretty nice about it. I basically just stuck to my big old fireball attack, and I would normally just wait for him to do his stomp attack, get some distance, throw a fireball at him, and that would normally make him do his stomp attack again, so I would just get some distance, throw a fireball at him, and just rinse and repeat that all the way until we got into the second dish phase. And it's obviously a lot harder now because now his stomp attack covers the entire arena, so we do have to change up our strategy a bit. So basically all I would do is just wait for him to do his ultimate ground splitting Cumbuster attack, get some distance, and then hit him with a fireball. And that's also the exact same strategy we used for his WWE Daddy phase, and although it is super difficult to resist getting a hug from those big strong arms. It's basically impossible to charge a fireball while he's constantly chasing you down, and I probably could have used my catch flame on him, but I eat at Weenie Hut Jr., so I was definitely way too scared to do that. So I just stuck with the same strategy of waiting for him to do that same attack as before, get some distance, throw a fireball, and he would usually run right into it, and I would just keep doing that until the fight was over. Alright, now it's finally time for the last boss fight, and you're probably like, ooh, why didn't you kill Melania? Fuck you, that's why. Sorry, that was a little aggressive. Despite me dying like 100 times the Ragoon.
Been that before razzle dazzle, and I'm the one preach, y'all chill, then vacate the tabernacle. What's the beast to a dinosaur, nigga? Pterodactyl mixed with a T-Rex. T-Rectodactyl.
This was definitely one of the funnest fights in this run so far because it was super fast paced and I was constantly switching between my fireball and my catch flame, which just made me feel like a real firebender and just made it super fun. It took me a long while to get the timings down, but once I did, I was having a blast with this fight. Whenever he was at a distance, I would try to throw my fireball at him, and a lot of the times he would just absorb it and then throw some sparklers back at me, which was pretty annoying, but you gotta roll with the punches. When he got close though, that's when I would have to put my epic dodging skills to use, and depending on the move, I was able to dodge through it and get 1 or 2 and sometimes even 3 attacks off before I had to run away before he would smack me with his hammer. I wish I could have used my stronger O-Flame attack instead, especially with the Godfrey icon, but it was just a little bit too slow and the faster version was definitely necessary for this fight. A lot of the times I was able to get near the end of the fight without even taking a hit some of the times, but whenever he does his like ultimate 3 slam attack, I would always mess up on the last slam and take a hit, and then my whole mojo was messed up after that and I would just start getting fucked up. But regardless of all that, we were able to get through the fight with a couple HP flasks to spare for the Elden Beast. And the Elden Beast was a lot more difficult than usual. Usually I say the Elden Beast is easier than Ragoon, but that's usually because I have a really long range attack to be able to use, but this time all I had was the fireball, and like I said before, the fireball's range really isn't that great, so I basically had to fight him at close range the entire time. Also, I don't know if the Elden Beast is just more resistant to fire than Ragoon was or what, or if he just has more health, but like, god damn, I really felt like I wasn't doing that much damage at all. As you can see though, most of the fight was just me spent trying to get as close as possible just to keep spamming the catch flame on him before he decided to swim away. Other than that, you just need to learn to dodge all of his attacks, which he really doesn't have that many attacks compared to a lot of the other bosses, but when you do take a hit, it's pretty brutal. Also, since you had to fight Ragoon before this, I had like no HP flask, even less than usual, so that didn't help either. Also, I did have to rely on RNG a little bit to get through this fight because if he spams that sparkler attack that chases you around, I'm basically done for because I have a lot of trouble dodging that attack. But luckily he only did it once and I was able to chase him down, spam my catch flame enough to finally finish off the Elden Beast. And with that, we did it. We beat Elden Ring only using Pyromancy, even though that's not a real category, but I just made it up, but still. Thank you guys so much for watching, especially if you made it all the way to the end, and holy shit, thank you guys so much for 100,000 subscribers. It literally means so much to me. I literally never thought I would get here. This is honestly a dream come true for me. It's something I've wanted since I was like 10 years old. Like I said in one of my community posts, I have had so many YouTube channels in my life. I was like 10 years old making Minecraft videos, and now I'm here, and I finally have 100,000 subscribers, like all I've ever wanted. So once again, thank you guys so much. I plan to give back as much as possible with giveaways and stuff and just hopefully just keep making quality videos that you guys can keep enjoying. So thank you again. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.